All right. I bet the majority of people here are descended from William F. Carter. How many of you are? Yeah, look at that. You know why? Okay. I've got some pictures you can circulate around. One of the reasons why is he had 260 grandchildren. So that spreads pretty fast. All right. One of the questions that was asked was, how has family history affected your life? And I was thinking about, it really is a big part of my life, and I've met some wonderful people like you through family history. And I haven't really been involved that much with the Carters, but until our mission, we went on a mission to India. And when we got our mission call to go to India, I said, oh, I read somewhere about somebody who went to India on a mission. I found out it was this William Carter. And that's his board right over there, the second one from the end. This is the picture I like the most, because I like to save pictures where they look like they're in the prime of life. The picture that Bob showed us yesterday at the Family History Library, who has that one that's circulating around? Yeah, oh, hold it up, Sue Ann. Yeah, right there. That's the one Bob has the original of, and that's a nice picture too, but I don't have a very good copy. So anyway, I found out about his mission to India, and the apartment where we were living when we got to India had a copy of about the history of those missionaries that were called to India in the 1850s. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So let's start at the beginning of his life. So what have we got so far? We got the children.
Dominicus, Elmira.
Okay, we got Dominicus. Elmira.
Hannah.
These are the children of John and Hannah. Then we have Hannah,
Then William.
who married York. Okay. And here's William. He's next. All right. So he was.
Number 4?
4.
Yes.
First one born in Newry.
Yeah, he's fourth. The second son, the fourth child.
Yep.
All right. So he was born about 1811. About when he was 20, he married Sarah York. Guess who Sarah York is the sister of?
Aaron.
This other York, the sister, Erin York. So it's kind of natural that there were two families that really had a lot to do with each other. So, and they started having a family shortly after that. So that's about 1831, I think he was married. Shortly after that is when the missionaries came. Like Bob was saying, William wasn't the first, but he was still baptized in the first year of when the missionaries came.
He was baptized in September.
I've got down November, but yeah.
Or November.
Whatever. So anyway, they went with the Saints to Kirtland for a very short time, then to Missouri, then to Illinois, and went through all the persecutions. Finally, they get kicked out of Illinois, and people have talked about that, about Nauvoo. And they were in the place called Winter Quarters, or Canesville, Iowa. And Dominicus and William were both blacksmiths. Yeah, that's right. Blacksmiths. So they were asked to stay longer, you know, rather than coming west immediately. Well, I have said that Dominicus came first, but it wasn't too long before William came. There's some record that he might have been in Salt Lake, but eventually he came to Provo. And about as soon as he got here, that's when the mission call to go to India came. So this was a call from Brigham Young to go with a group of others on a mission. And we have his missionary journal, and it's in very much detail. For example, I just pulled out some extracts. Monday, November 15th, traveled 18 miles, heavy sandy road. Crossed the Rio Virgin 8 times today. Fine weather, poor feed, 10 Indians camped with us.
These are Indians.
That's right. The difference. No, these were the Americans. Oh, we're still in the United States. Okay.
On the Santa Fe, or the old Spanish Trail.
Yeah, they're heading down. They're crossing the Virgin River, and they're heading the way. Later, he says they get to Las Vegas. Rainy Friday, Tuesday, etc. By December 2nd, they reached the summit of the Sierra Nevada mountains. And then, I thought this was a good comment, traveled to Warm Springs and took a bath. I guess that's an important enough event that you recorded. Anyway, gets to Southern California, talks about how beautiful it is, and all this sort of stuff. And then they sailed from there up to San Francisco. And in San Francisco, there were a lot of relatives and friends and church people who were part of the gold discovery. And he says he went up to a place called Mormon
Island.
And somebody was panning for gold and handed him a piece of gold, and that's how they raised the money to get on the ship to go to India. So they left from San Francisco, went to Calcutta. I've been to Calcutta once, but he describes it as 120 degrees, and that everybody stayed in the house all day, and he did not fare well in India. As a matter of fact, within 2 months, he was so sick they thought he was going to die. So the decision was made to send him back to America.
Remember, he's 43 years old.
Yeah, he's
not
trying
yet.
his life. Yeah. Anyway, so they sail, he goes on the ship and they sail around Africa and land in Boston. Because of his family in Maine, he goes up and visits them. And
Stays with Uncle Richard.
stays with his Uncle Richard and has, renews acquaintances with the family there. Then he travels down to Illinois, where his family was, found out his father had died, found out that he had had a child during the time he was gone, because he had no communication with his family the whole time he was in India. It was by the time he came back with his family in Illinois that he found out a little bit more. So, at that point, go ahead.
His daughter, Mary Ann Arbella Carter, was very proud of him because she said he's the first missionary that carried the Book of Mormon all the way around the
Well,
world.
right. As a matter of fact, okay, so he went the same direction all the way around the earth. And that was one of the things that he himself was very proud of, that he carried not only the Book of Mormon, but he also carried a temple apron with him. And that was handed down in the family, and Bob Gibbons had it and has donated that piece of clothing to
The church,
the museum.
It's the library, but it's housed by the museum.
Right. We went to try and find it yesterday, and we couldn't
We're getting
find
a runaround.
it. It's in a drawer somewhere. but Bob was told that it would be saved for when the first temple in India was built. They would put that temple apron on display there, and so that's something I look forward to, because I've sort of told myself, when that happens, I'm going. Anyway, so what else? Oh, so so at this point he wants to get back to Utah. He still hasn't totally recovered. As a matter of fact, the captain of the company that's taking people to Utah says, "You're too sick, I'm not taking you." So he still was weak, and they said he looked really old. But there was someone who spoke up in his behalf, who ended up being his...
Elizabeth Howard.
Elizabeth Howard.
Single English girl.
Yeah, so she was a single English girl and said, "No, we need to take him along," and she ended up being one of his wives too. So when they got to Salt Lake, to Utah, they were eventually married. All right, so he gets back to Utah and settles in Provo, Santaquin, Goshen, all those areas where he's a blacksmith and has lots of children. He has 5 wives. With 4 of those wives, he has at least 7 children. So the best, 36 children is the number of children he had, and 260 grandchildren, of which many of us are descended. And the other thing that's interesting too is that I've found since then that there are several people I know that I'm related through William Carter or the Carter family, as well as other families too. So it's pretty interesting.
I'm William S. Roxina, and their
Okay.
daughter Junietta. down to my grandfather, Don H. Hall. Can I just read a sentence from this that I think is very interesting?
That'd be awesome,
My
sure.
grandfather always told me that William F. had 4 wives, one on each corner, and the center part was where all the children played, all the women washed, and they all got along and everything. Well, in his history it says, it was sometime during these years that William F. told his son Versus that it took a sack of flour a day to feed his family. During this time, the story is retold of William F. riding up on to his houses to find 2 wives quarreling over a washboard. Being the wise diplomat he was, he didn't interfere. He very quietly turned his horse around and drove away unnoticed until returning later to peace and quiet. It was told that he treated all his wives as fairly as could be done, and that there was very little friction among them.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Probably because he turned away a whole lot.
North in Arizona probably at this point.
Anna practiced the same thing and left, or not, Sarah practiced the same thing and left and went to Arizona.
His youngest child was born when he was 21. His his oldest child, his first son, was born when he was 21, and the youngest child was born when he was 71. So that's quite a span. All right.
Was Sally Ann one of those 4 corners? Sally
Must have
Ann?
been, yes, because it was
Because she moved away later?
Yes.
Yeah, she moved later. But it was the 4 wives that really, for the longest time, were together all at the same time. The other one basically died within a couple of months. So it was Sarah York, Roxina Meekum, Mary Elizabeth Howard, Sally Ann Meekum. That really were the 4 corners. Yeah, and
Sally
right.
and Roxana.
Exactly.
So do we know where they live? Do we have their address, like?
Where the 4 corner address
Yeah.
was? Do you know where that was? Was that in Santa Quin?
There's a house in Santa Quin that I have a picture of it. I have an original picture of it.
Oh, my God.
Can we have that?
Yes, it's still there, and the people, there's people that live in it. It's been redone a little bit from the original, but yes, it's still there.
Maybe in 2 years we can go to Santa Quin. Huh?
We went there last
I
year.
can circle a picture.
No, not to Santa Quin.
No.
Santa
We
Quin's
went to
further
Santa
away
Cruz,
than
but not
we
William
went.
F. House.
Oh, really? You
okay.
did go to Santa
Yeah,
Quin?
we
See, I didn't go on that trip.
Yeah,
Sorry.
went to the library.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
When did Sally Ann move away? Does anybody know? From Santa Quin?
Here's a picture of the original house.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
This is why we need to get our stuff all together.
Do you mind if we pass it around?
Sure, go ahead and pass it.
Okay. So anyway, he died. He died. Everybody.
1880.